front. It is now the United States of America that is very closely monitoring the retaliation which is being done by Israel. It is the United States that is monitoring Israel's retaliation. In fact, President Joe Biden has been briefed and is very closely following all the developments coming in from the Israeli retaliation on Iran. White House officials have said, we are closely monitoring what's taking part in the region. In fact, the President Joe Biden is being regularly briefed. He himself is personally closely monitoring all the developments with regards to Israel's retaliatory strike on Iran. Gaurav, you were also making this point that it is very, very crucial for the United States of America to keep a hawk's eye on what's happening in the region. And, from what experts have been speaking about, United States is also in a way involved in the war because they do not want Iran to be strengthened. So now we are seeing Iran on one side, the United States and Israel on the other side.
The United States is committed to the defense of Israel. After the October 1 Iranian missile strike, there were several gaps that were found. If you look at Israel's missile defense shield, it's perhaps the best in the world. They have the Iron Dome, the David Sling, the Arrow 1, the Arrow 2, the Arrow 3, the Patriot missile defense system, plus then they have their fighter jets. So just look at the number of layers they have to protect their country from any incoming projectile. And yet, multiple Iranian rockets were able to overcome this entire missile defense shield and target Israel. Whether it's the Nevatim Air Base or whether it's just about a kilometer from the Mossad headquarters, that is why the Americans then rushed in their third terminal high-altitude air defense missile shield, considered amongst the best in the world, that can take down any incoming ballistic missile in the higher altitudes of the exosphere and endo-atmosphere. So, with the third deployed, American fighter jets deployed, America is very directly involved in this fight to protect. It's a defensive operation right now vis-a-vis Iran, but an offensive operation vis-a-vis the Houthi rebels. American warships and American fighter jets have targeted Houthi strongholds in the past 2 weeks because they were targeting American ships and merchant ships in the Red Sea region. That is why this war is just likely to become much bloodier in the days and weeks ahead should Ayatollah Ali Khamenei carry out that threat that they have over 1,000 ballistic missiles ready, precision missiles, better missiles, and missiles that can beat the Iron Dome system to target Israel. Now, if there is a retaliation, then there will be an even bigger counter-retaliation, and that time there is no guarantee that the oil infrastructure or the nuclear infrastructure will not be targeted. As of now, the strikes are only on military targets according to Israel, but there is no guarantee that there will be no counter-retaliation by Israel should Iran strike back now.
Right, we are seeing the war escalating, Gaurav, and when we are looking at the kind of response from Israel, one is actually reminded of Operation Wrath of God. It actually took Israel close to 20 years to find everyone involved in the murder of close to 11 Israeli Olympic athletes. But everyone involved, directly, Gaurav, or indirectly, was actually eliminated by Mossad. So that's the kind of precision with which Israel goes in when it decides on something. So it seems like there is a precision this time also in the way in which Israel is operating.
Oh, you're absolutely right on that account too. There are legends, there are myths, and there are stories, and yet there is, real action on ground. You pointed to the wrath of God after the Munich Olympics, where every one of those Black September terrorists were identified and neutralized, or the Entebbe raid where they rescued their passengers, and the current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's brother, Colonel Jonathan Netanyahu, was involved in this, and unfortunately, the only person who was killed in that operation was Jonathan Netanyahu, and he's a huge national hero in all of Israel. The only time Israel was really overwhelmed was this 7th of October attack that took place, the worst since Holocaust in their history. But after that, there are multiple lessons learned. When I was reporting from Israel from the 8th of October for about 3 weeks in Israel, they were overwhelmed. They were desperately trying to fight back, and they showed amazing determination to go after the Hamas subsequently. But whether it's Mossad, whether it's Shin Bet, their external intelligence agency, their internal intelligence agency, some of their crack commando units, they got their act together, and then they started going after both Hamas and the Hezbollah with clinical precision. And also the typical Mossad kind of operations that legends are made of was that pager offensive in which over 1,000 Hezbollah fighters were taken down. Then the walkie-talkie attacks, then taking down Hassan Nasrallah, then taking out Fuad Shukr and almost the entire top leadership of the Hezbollah, and now going after the Iranian regime. Plus what was suspected to be a cyber attack on Iran. A similar cyber attack had taken place earlier that had virtually, adversely impacted Iran's banking system just months ago. Should something like that happen, imagine a cyber attack, an aerial attack, a naval attack on a multi-pronged offensive on Iran. That would be Iran's worst nightmare. But that is something that has already been wargamed by Israel. It could lead to internal trouble if a banking system of a country collapses, if people are unable to withdraw money from banks like it had happened in Iran earlier. It will just show that the regime to hold on to power will find it extremely difficult.
Thank you, Gaurav, for giving us all those details and putting everything in perspective. Now, this is a war which seems like will continue for days to come.